Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to each of you, thank you for being here. Ms. Helm, I thank you for weighing in and working with us as we developed the romance scam bill that we've been moving forward with at Commerce Committee.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your input on that. You know, one of the things we realized was the entry point for a lot of these scams and these financial crimes are the dating apps, and especially the dating apps for seniors. And so when you talk about an entry point, that seems to have been it. But what we have learned, and Mr. Chairman alluded to this in his opening, these are really transnational organizations. And pardon me, this is a big business. And I know U.S. consumers lost, the estimate is $1.3 billion last year in these scams, but that is what is reported. And we know many of these don't get reported because of embarrassment, or they figured it out, but they've already lost several $1,000s in the process. And as we were working on our legislation, what we found is that some of these sophisticated transnational criminal organizations will actually promise people that they will get them to another country, many times the U.S., for high-paying jobs. But what actually happens is it's a form of human trafficking tied to it. They're brought here, and then they're placed in what are called fraud dens. And in these fraud dens, they work the internet, they work the phones, and they create these relationships, and then they are scamming people out of hundreds of millions of dollars every year, and telling these individuals that they were going to bring to the U.S. and people that they're trafficking, that they have to work out their debt. So that's how they keep them in these dens. But Mr. Fenta, I want you to speak for a minute about these transnational organizations and what we know about them and their underpinning as it relates to these crimes.
Thank you, Senator. These TOC, transnational organized crime groups, they're not really any different than the Mexican cartels, the TOC East groups doing cyber crimes. They're configured relatively similarly, particularly in the way they launder the money. So one thing that we noticed doing elder fraud investigations is that a lot of the money that we were tracing through these accounts was also in the same accounts with proceeds from narcotic sales, human trafficking, all kinds of other crimes. So it's not necessarily about the crime as much as the criminal groups. So we have the sophistication in our government and in our private industry to do these investigations if we coordinate them and work them together to have more effect. I think it's more a function of us choosing how to do that as opposed to letting the crooks choose, because they're plenty sophisticated. We need to be at that same level.
Yes, and I think, and you alluded to this earlier, as we have worked on the Kids Online Safety Act and worked with industry and worked with parents, we've seen some of this skill set develop, and it could be transferred over. Mr. Burku, I want to ask you, and thank you for the work you've done on tracing the illegal phone calls, the robocalls, and those things. Talk a little bit about Traceback, and give me an example of where Traceback and or a cross-sector collaboration has led to a criminal conviction and to unraveling part of this network.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think we'd love to see more of our work lead to criminal convictions. That's where we just really think that needs to be a priority. Where a lot of our work, so we trace the calls, we get examples from illegal calls, referrals from law enforcement, data we source ourselves, working with financial institutions, tech companies, others. and we'll trace that back to the source. And basically, we see 8 to 10 different voice service providers touch that call along the way. And so that's why we need Traceback to find out where it really came from, who made the call. So that's the Traceback effort. It's been very successful in civil enforcement. Where we'd love to see it amped up is in the criminal side.
Okay, let me ask you this. With Wi-Fi calling, have you been able to follow any on Wi-Fi calling? And if someone's using a VPN, does that obstruct your work?
So for us, yeah, our focus, if it hits the public telephone network, we trace it back. If it's purely over the top, like a WhatsApp call, that would be outside the scope of
Okay.
what we do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator